Hello and welcome back to another FPL video. Today we're taking a look at our Game Week 26 transfer tips. We are still in the middle of Game Week 25 with Liverpool and Aston Villa still to play tonight, so we don't have our full results for last week's transfer tips. Of course, we did have a bit of a mixed bag going on. Kerkez up against Southampton unfortunately didn't pick up the haul that we were looking for, only got a 2-pointer, so that went down as a fail. But I think over the next few game weeks he is still going to be a really nice option. Obviously with the immediate it is a little bit of a failure there with the 2-pointer. Gordon, a nice sell last week. Isak we did have as a keep. He unfortunately blanked as well. Again, he is still, stats wise one of the best strikers in the game and still would definitely be looking to keep him for as long as possible. Morgan Rogers, unfortunately in his game against Ipswich, the easy fixture of the double in game week 25, only picked up a 2-pointer, but we do still have this Liverpool game to see if he can make up for that. Then of course Mateta, a really nice pick as well up until game week 28. For the next few weeks you are still getting a lot of good fixtures out of him, and of course he got a nice little return and a 7-pointer as well. So we're going to take a look at more transfer tips for this week. If you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more FPL content, and let's jump straight into it. So we're starting off with someone who we did actually have a couple of weeks ago in our transfer tips video, and it is Marmoush. She is the most transferred player in so far this week with over 300,000 transfers in, and for me he is going to be an avoid still. A really good pick I think, and maybe if you're wildcarding game week 30 onwards where City have nicer fixtures, but looking at the games over the next few, definitely wouldn't be wanting to use up a striker spot on him, especially with the amount of good strikers there is at the minute. The fixtures just aren't looking too great. His expected points aren't too brilliant either, with Liverpool at home, Spurs away, Nottingham Forest away. Some really good defences in there, and for me I just wouldn't be looking to get him. Obviously he has done really well after picking up a hat-trick last week, but when we actually look at those XG stats, he's only played 3 matches is what we kind of have to look at, so we don't have a lot of stats to go off of, but he's only picked up 0.88 expected goals in those matches that he has played. Now obviously he blanked in game week 23 and blanked in game week 24, and of course picked up that hat-trick against Newcastle in game week 25, but considering he scored 3 goals from that match and not even picked up 1 expected goal from that, shows that it's not going to be able to continue, so that form isn't sustainable over a longer period of time. And of course with the difficult fixtures, I'm really not expecting him to do too well. Again, could be a really nice alternate option to Erling Haaland maybe in game week 30 onwards, but for right now I think with the difficult fixtures I'd be looking to avoid him for now. Next up we have another Bournemouth player, back-to-back weeks in which I do think you should pick him up. Again, you can really go for it. There's a lot of Bournemouth midfielders that you can pick up. I've got Justin Kluivert here now because obviously for our transfer tips we look at the most transferred in players. I think Kluivert's number 2 or number 3 this week. He's got 191,000 transfers in so far. He is now up to 6 million as well with his price, so he is climbing quite a bit as well. Some really nice fixtures over the next few. Wolves at home, I would expect him to do quite well. Of course, he is the penalty taker for Bournemouth as well, which is going to give him a big advantage over the others. I do think it is one of those periods of time where you probably could pick, maybe 2 or even 3 Bournemouth midfielders if you, had some midfielder spots available to get rid of. You can see the fixtures up the top. They are, very easily holdable for the next, 6 game weeks at least. Wolves, Brighton, Spurs, Brentford at home, and Ipswich at home with West Ham away. Really good fixtures for them. When we're looking at them all combined with each other, I've got the Bournemouth attackers stats or midfielders stats since game week 16, which is when Dango started to get starts up front. Of course, he was mainly just a player off the bench from before game week 16, so I feel like it's the most fair to look at that side of things since game week 16 all the way up to game week 25. Now comparing them all, which is Kluivert, Dango and Semenyo. Semenyo's had the most minutes, followed by Dango Utara, followed by Justin Kluivert, so it's Semenyo who is taking it there. Kluivert does have the highest expected goals. He is just edging out Dango by 0.05, but what you do have to consider is of course Kluivert does have the penalties, and a penalty does accumulate for a huge part of that XG. So realistically, it's probably Dango, in terms of open play, who is showing the most threat. And of course, he does have the highest expected assists as well. So while Kluivert is the most transferred player in this week, Dango is still looking like a fantastic option. I really did wish that he, flew under the radar a little bit. Before he scored his hat-trick, he was someone I was looking at, and he wasn't being spoke about whatsoever. Then obviously picked up that hat-trick, and then everyone ended up bringing him in. Personally, I brought in Kluivert because I needed one before the transfer deadline, and I didn't know if Bournemouth were going to bring in another striker, and I didn't want to be left with him if he wasn't going to be getting that game time. But now that he is Bournemouth's main striker, Dango is looking like a very, very, very nice option. Obviously, when it comes to shots as well, Semenyo is, clear. He's been pretty clear in terms of shots since, game week 1. He's been right at the top of that list in terms of just league stats, not even just Bournemouth stats, since the beginning of the season. So he's top of shots on target. In terms of big chances, again, it is Dango with almost double the amount of chances as well than Kluivert has had, and then it is Semenyo who has the most chances created. So if I was to rank these three in terms of buys for now, I would go with Dango number 1, Kluivert would be my number 2, and then I'd be looking at Semenyo as third place. But all of them right now are looking like really, really nice buys. Next, we've got the disappointment of Game Week 25. He was a big player that was brought in for Game Week 24, and obviously done really nice if you brought him in Game Week 23. However, he did pick up an injury, which never really got mentioned too much as a big injury that would keep him out of both games in Game Week 25 until after the deadline. So right now, a bit of a sore one if you did have Gakpo in your team, but he is definitely going to be a sell at this point. Obviously, if you're not free hitting in Game Week 29, Liverpool are going to be blanking that week. I don't think Gakpo is someone as well in the single game weeks that is, always going to be picking up points for you. Difficult games as well with Man City and Newcastle coming up. And again, I mentioned it already with Marmoush. I think there is just lots of good strikers that you can get at the minute. And now with the double game weeks out of the way, I think Gakpo is one I'd be moving on. Again, you've got the likes of Mateta, you've got Jimenez, you've got Chris Wood, who, has pretty difficult fixtures now. So I think a lot of people will be looking to sell Wood at this point now as well. Isak, you've got Cunha, who's been starting to get bought up a lot as well this week. So really a lot of good striker options. Unfortunately, Gakpo just doesn't really fit into that. He is probably due to drop in price. Whether that's before the deadline or not, I'm not too sure. He may just be able to keep his 7.6 million price tag before Friday night. But again, just one to keep an eye on. Next up, we've got another player who has been heavily sold off, and it is Cole Palmer. I think this is like the third week in a row where he has been sold off over 100,000 times. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that is, kind of what's been happening. A lot of people have been selling him off recently, with him not really performing to the level that you would expect of an 11.2 million midfielder. Over 100,000 transfers out, he is due to drop in price, but for me alone, just looking at those upcoming fixtures, you've got to be looking to keep him. There's no way you can sell Cole Palmer with Southampton at home and Leicester at home in the upcoming 2-game week. There just isn't a world where Cole Palmer doesn't get a return in either of those matches. You can see the expected points as well. He's got 8.8 expected points against Southampton and 8.4 against Leicester. Even Aston Villa away isn't the worst fixture in the world. Villa are missing a few defenders, so he could easily get something in that match. Of course, takes the penalties as well, which opens him up to a return at really any point as well throughout a match. But if you're looking for even more of a reason to keep him, when we're looking at Fantasy Football Hub's expected points for midfielders over the next 5 matches, Cole Palmer is sitting in first place. Now, of course, a big factor of that is the fact that he has a game in Game Week 29. Obviously, Mo Salah is blanking. If Salah had a match in Game Week 29, then he would be sitting at first place. But the fact he is playing puts him a bit ahead of him by, just under 5 expected points, and he's got 37.7 expected points over the next 5 matches. So you don't want to be selling the player coming up against Southampton at home and Leicester at home in his next 2, and is top of the expected points list over the next 5 matches for midfielders. So definitely wouldn't be looking to sell him at any point in the near future. Of course, the price drop isn't ideal, but it is just something that you've got to hold through. I think if he obviously does return against Southampton or Leicester, you'll probably see people buying him all back again, and that price will start to increase again. So no worries there. Would definitely be looking to keep Cole Palmer, as tempting as it is to sell him for maybe another Bournemouth midfielder. And then finally wrapping up the video, we have a very nice cheap gem, and that is Ethan Nwaneri from Arsenal, the cheapest midfielder in the game at 4.5 million, has over 100,000 transfers in. Again, a lot of people selling the likes of Amad Diallo, Morgan Rogers, getting sold off for the cheaper version in Ethan Nwaneri, who is looking like he is going to be guaranteed game time until at least game week 30. Obviously, looking at his expected points, it looks as though it's about the Man United game where Fantasy Football Hub, the model is expecting him to drop off in minutes, but Saka had a setback in his injury and it's looking like he is going to be out for a little while longer. So I think if you are wildcarding in game week 30, game week 31, which a lot of people are, I think he could be a really good option. An easy one to bench as well. At only 4.5 million, you could easily bench him every game and not really have to worry about it because he is that cheap. Due to rise in price up to 4.6 at some point, but I think he has the chance to do really well, mainly against West Ham. Obviously after that, the fixtures aren't too great with Nottingham Forest away and Man United away, but he has taken up Saka's spot in attack, and he is looking like one of the best Arsenal attackers in the team at the minute. So for only 4.5 million, if you are looking for a cheap midfielder, he's looking like an obvious buy. So this is how we're looking for this week's transfer tips. We've got 2 buys, 1 sell, 1 keep and 1 avoid. Let me know down in the comment section if you do agree, or if there's any transfer dilemmas you have found yourself in. Make sure to drop it in there and I'll make sure to answer that. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like on it. Make sure to subscribe as well if you are new, and I'll see you all in the next one.